Alright, 6.6, we're going to look at multiplying polynomials by monomials. When you multiply a polynomial by a monomial, you will use the distributive property. Okay, so if we look at number 1, we have that b out front. That's our monomial. It's only one term out front. We've got our polynomial on the inside. So to distribute that b, I need to multiply it by 2b squared and by 3. Okay, when I multiply 2b squared times b, I have b to the first times b to the second. And again, my rule, when I multiply two like bases, I'm going to add their exponents. So that would be 2b to the second times b to the first plus 3b. I can combine those b's to b to the 2 plus 1. I add the exponents, and that gives me 2b cubed plus 3b. Okay, number 2. I'm going to take my monomial out front, and I need to distribute it and multiply it by each term on the inside. So that gives me 7 times negative 2n and a negative 5n squared times a negative 2n. So if I look at my first one, 7 times negative 2 gives me negative 14, and I only have one n there, so negative 14n. For my second piece here, I've got negative 5 times negative 2 gives me positive 10, and then I have n squared times n to the first. Again, I can add those exponents, so I have negative 14n plus 10n to the 2 plus 1, which gives me negative 14n plus 10n to the third. Okay, let's look at number 3. Again, I need to distribute this monomial to each piece of my polynomial on the inside. So when I write this out, I get 2x squared times 3x cubed minus 5x times 3x cubed plus 8 times 3x cubed. Now, if you can do some of these steps in your head, you don't have to write out each step, but I'm just writing out each step along the way so you know where I'm getting these numbers from. So now if you look at this first piece right here, if I multiply my constants together, that's 2 times 3, which gives me 6. And now I have x squared times x cubed. And I can add those exponents together, so I get 6x to the 5th. Then for my next piece here, I have negative 5 times positive 3, which gives me a negative 15. Then I have x to the first times x to the third. And again, I can add those exponents together. I get negative 15 x to the fourth. Then finally, if I multiply my constants together, I have 8 times 3, which gives me a positive 24. And then I only have one x, so that would be x cubed. And this is my final answer. Okay, number 4. Again, I'm taking my monomial out front, and I'm going to multiply it by each piece on the inside. So when I write out my first step, I have 6 times a negative 5a, and I have a negative 3a squared times negative 5a. This first piece right here, if I multiply my constants, I have 6 times negative 5 gives me negative 30. And I only have 1a, so that's a at the end. Then here I have negative 3 times negative 5 is a positive 15. I have a squared times a to the first. So I'm going to add those exponents. Here I have negative 30a plus 15. Add my exponents, I get a to the third. And this is my final answer. Okay, 2 more. Here I'm going to multiply my first monomial by my first polynomial. So I have w times w, and instead of writing it all out this time, I'm going to skip that first step and do w times w is w squared. So w to the first and to the first, add those together, I get 2. And then I get plus 12w. Then, in my next piece, I have w times w again, which gives me plus w squared. W to the first, 1 plus 1 is 2. Then I have w times 14, which is 14w. And then at the end here, I still have plus 12. Okay, so now let's look at my like terms. I have a w squared plus a w squared, which gives me 2w squared. Then I have 12w plus 14w gives me 26w. And then my last term, just a 12, is going to stay at the end. This gives me my final answer. Okay, last problem. I'm going to take my monomial, multiply it by each term. 5a times 3. Well, 5 times 3 is 15, and then I still have my a. And then 5a times a is going to be 5. A times a is a to the first times a to the first. Add 1 plus 1 gives me 2. My next piece, I have a negative 2a here times a and times a negative 1. So negative 2a times a gives me negative 2. A times a is a squared. Negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. And I still have my a. And then I have plus 6 at the end still. Now I'm going to combine my like terms. Now I'm going to combine my like terms, and I'm going to start with my a squareds because usually we want to put the exponent with the highest power first. So if I have 5 minus 2a, that gives me 3a squared. I keep my exponent. I just combine the constants. Then I have 15a plus 2a. 15 plus 2 is 17a. And then I still have plus 6 at the end. That is my final answer.